Two men are walking their dogs, a Doberman and a Chihuahua, when they see a restaurant. They're pretty hungry, so they decide to head in for a bite to eat. Unfortunately, they see a sign out front that says, "No dogs allowed." The man with the Doberman says, "I know what to do. Just follow my lead." He throws on a pair of sunglasses and walks in. The waiter tells him, "I'm sorry, sir, we don't allow dogs here." The man says, "Oh, you don't understand. I'm blind, and this is my guide dog." "A Doberman for a guide dog?" the waiter asks, skeptical. Yes, Dobermans are very loyal. They're easy to train and protective too. They're born for the job. The waiter sighs and leads the man to a table. The second man, excited by this idea, throws on his sunglasses and walks in. The waiter tells him, "I'm sorry, sir, we don't allow dogs here." The man says, "Oh, you don't understand. I'm blind, and this is my guide dog." "A Chihuahua for a guide dog?" the waiter asks. "A Chihuahua?" the man asks. "They gave me a Chihuahua."
A young man wanted to purchase a gift for his new sweetheart's birthday, and as they had not been dating very long, after careful consideration, he decided a pair of gloves would strike the right note, romantic but not too personal. Accompanied by his sweetheart's younger sister, he went to Nordstrom's and bought a pair of white gloves. The sister purchased a pair of panties for herself. During the wrapping, the clerk mixed up the items, giving the sister the gloves and the sweetheart the panties. Without checking the contents, the young man sealed the package and sent it to his sweetheart with the following note: "I chose these because I noticed that you are not in the habit of wearing any when we go out in the evening. If it had not been for your sister, I would have chosen the long ones with the buttons, but she wears short ones that are easier to remove. These are a delicate shade, but the lady I bought them from showed me the pair she had been wearing for the past 3 weeks, and they were hardly soiled. I had her try yours on for me, and she looked really smart. I wish I was there to put them on for you the first time, as no doubt other hands will come in contact with them before I have a chance to see you again. When you take them off, remember to blow in them before putting them away, as they will naturally be a little damp from wearing. Just think how many times I will kiss them during the coming year. I hope you will wear them for me on Friday night. All my love. P.S. The latest style is to wear them folded down with a little fur showing."
One day, a man walked into a sporting goods store looking to buy a rifle. The man had never been hunting before and asked the clerk if he could recommend a rifle. "Oh, yes," the clerk said. "I'm not a very good shot, but I've done quite a lot of hunting in my day. I even did some big game hunting with my brother-in-law." The man responded, "No way. Did you get anything?" "I sure did. We were in the African jungle when we suddenly stumbled upon a monstrous crocodile. He was a mean one, too, with scars all over his face. This was surely one bad croc. My brother-in-law said he wanted to wrestle it and take a picture afterward, so he crept right up to it until they were face to face, nose to nose, eye to eye, and tooth to tooth. The giant croc stretched its massive jaws, preparing to take a bite out my brother-in-law. Naturally, I couldn't let that happen, so I raised my rifle and shot him right between the eyes." "Amazing," said the man. "Yeah, and I had this fancy belt made after I got back to our camp." "Oh, wow! So the belt is genuine crocodile skin?" "No, the belt is made out of genuine brother-in-law." A man stumbles across an old oil lamp in an antique store. The lamp is very dusty, so he gives it a rub, and the room starts to shake, and a genie appears. He announces, "I am the great genie of the lamp. Since you've freed me, I will grant you one wish." The man replies, "Just one?" The genie replies, "Blame Reaganomics. Now time is short. What is your wish?"
After giving a little bit of thought, the man says, "I want you to make me a bridge. I want it to go from Los Angeles to Honolulu so I don't have to spend so much money to vacation there." The genie looks at him like he's the stupidest man he's ever met, and he's met more than a few, and says, "Buddy, seriously, are you nuts? You know how much concrete and rebar I'd have to wrangle? That would be a massive project. We'd need environmental impact studies and permits, not to mention all the union labor I'd have to contract out." Oh, geez. A little crestfallen, the man says, "Well, can you help me understand women then?" The genie replies, "Did you want 2 or 4 lanes in that bridge?"
An Italian man meets the girl of his dreams. He falls madly in love with her and decides that he is going to marry this girl. But first, he needs to introduce her to his mother. So he calls his mother. "Ma, I've met the one. I met the girl I want to spend the rest of my life with. I want you to meet her, but since you think you know me so well, I'm going to bring 3 girls home, and I want you to try to figure out which one I'm going to marry." So that Sunday, the man brings 3 beautiful women to dinner. They enjoyed a meal together, and the mother starts to clean up the dishes. The son follows her into the kitchen and confronts her. "So, Ma, which one of these girls am I going to spend the rest of my life with? Which one of these girls am I going to marry?" "The one in the middle," says the mother. The man is shocked. "That's the one. I have to know how you know, Ma." "Out of the 3 girls, that's the one I don't like."
A man walks into a bar and orders a drink. The bartender gives the man his drink, and the man asks, "If I show you something crazy, would you let me have free drinks for the rest of the night?" The bartender thinks for a minute and then says, "It would be something spectacular to take that offer." The man leans down and picks up a box and sets it on the bar. He opens the box, and inside is a small piano man who is only 1 foot tall, and beside him a little piano. The piano man starts playing classical music like Beethoven and Chopin. Once he finishes, the bartender is in utter disbelief. He tells the man, "You can have free drinks for the rest of the night, but only if you tell me where you got this." The man says, "In the alleyway behind your bar, there is a genie who is granting free wishes to everyone who wants them." Elated, the bartender heads behind his bar to see if it was true. A few minutes passed, and out of the alleyway erupted a cacophony of quacking. The bartender rushes back into the bar and shuts his door against a wave of thousands of ducks. He manages to secure the door and says to the men, I think that the genie is hard of hearing, because after I asked for $1,000,000, these ducks appeared by the thousands." The man chuckles and says, "Did you really think I wished for a 12-inch pianist?"
A lone cowboy nobody knew walks into a mining town bar. He orders 2 drinks, which he downs slowly. When he was done with his drinks, he paid the bartender and walked out to see that his horse with all his stuff was missing. He turns around, walks back in the bar, pulls his guns from his holster and shoots them in the air. "Whichever one of you cow dungs stole my horse better have it back by the time I finish my next drink. Otherwise, I'm going to have to do what I did in Texas. And trust me, I don't want to ever do that again." He walks back to the bar, gets another drink, and slowly drinks it. The people in the bar started murmuring, talking amongst themselves and looking at the stranger with beer in their eyes. The stranger finishes his drink and walks out, and his horse is there where he left it. He got up on it when the bartender and the bar patrons ran out after him. The bartender said, "Mister, we are sorry for what happened, but please tell us what happened in Texas after somebody stole your horse." The stranger looked at him and said, "I had to walk home." Bob returned from a doctor's visit and told his wife, Alma, that the doctor said he only had 24 hours to live. Wiping away her tears, he asked her to make love with him. Of course, she agreed, and they made passionate love. 6 hours later, Bob went to her again and said, "Honey, now I only have 18 hours left to live. Maybe we could make love again." Alma agreed, and again they made love. Later, Bob was getting into bed when he realized he now had only 8 hours of life left. He touched Alma's shoulder and said, "Honey, please, just one more time before I die." She agreed, and afterwards she rolled over and fell asleep. Bob, however, heard the clock ticking in his head, and he tossed and turned until he was down to only 4 more hours. He tapped his wife on the shoulder to wake her up. "Honey, I only have 4 hours left. Could we?" His wife sat up abruptly, turned to him and said, "Listen, Bob, I have to get up in the morning for your funeral, and you don't have to get up."
A psychologist visits an engineer in his hospital bed. The guy had just jumped off a bridge. The psychologist says, "Hey there, Ahmed, I'm Dr. Adams. How you feeling today?" And the engineer replies, "In pain, but lucky to be alive, I guess." Dr. Adams wants to help, so she asks the engineer about his life. The engineer tells her he came from Libya a year ago. Life in Libya was rough, especially after Gaddafi was out. He told her about the power outages in Tripoli and studying electrical engineering by candlelight. He finally got good enough to get a job in America, so he kisses his girlfriend goodbye, tells his family not to worry about food anymore, he'll start sending his paychecks home, and hops on a plane to California. He's working 100-hour weeks at a startup called TechWave. Believes fully in the company, even puts all his money into the company's stock. The psychologist, who's heard of TechWave, thought they were doing great. Asks him, "But TechWave is the new hot thing. Why did you jump?" He thought they were too. But this morning, I got a text saying the company would be closed for Good Friday. Gaddafi.
3 men were discussing aging at the nursing home. "60 is the worst age to be," said the 60-year-old. "You always feel like you have to pee. And most of the time, you stand at the toilet and nothing comes out." "Ah, that's nothing," said the 70-year-old. "When you're 70, you can't even crap anymore. You take laxatives, eat bran, and sit on the toilet all day, and nothing comes out." "Actually," said the 80-year-old, 80 is the worst age of all." "Do you have trouble peeing too?" asked the 60-year-old. "No, not really. I pee every morning at 6. I pee like a racehorse on a flat rock. No problem at all." "Do you have trouble crapping?" "No, I crap every morning at 6:30. With great exasperation, the 60-year-old said, "Let me get this straight. You pee every morning at 6 and crap every morning at 6:30. So what's so tough about being 80? I don't wake up until 7.
After a long stint in prison, Kathy managed to secure herself a job at a candy shop. She arrived on the first day wearing a proper yet practical dress. However, her first day was set to be retrieving candy at the front register. The first customer came, looked at the candy, and asked for licorice. This was on the top shelf, so Kathy had to climb up and down the ladder to get it. The second customer came, checked the candy shelf, and asked for peppermint. These were also on the top shelf, so Kathy had to climb up and down the ladder again. The following customers all also wanted the top shelf candy, forcing Kathy to spend all day going up and down the ladder. At the end of the day, Kathy went to the owner, George, to ask a question. "Hey, so may I ask, why is all of the popular candy on the top shelf?" George looked her up and down. "I don't think it's the candy. They might have wanted to see your undergarments." "Huh, well, the joke's on them. I don't even wear panties."
There was once a Viking warrior so fierce and powerful that no one dared to challenge him in battle. Seeking a new test of his abilities, he took up a different kind of conquest, staring contests. Sailing across Europe, he challenged anyone brave enough to face him, boasting that he had never lost. To make things more interesting, he even promised to give up all the gold he had pillaged to anyone who could defeat him. Word of his challenge spread far and wide, eventually reaching an Irish couple with a very unusual daughter. She had been born without eyelids. Believing she was destined to win, her parents sent a messenger, inviting the Viking to Ireland for a showdown. The Viking, eager to prove himself, accepted the challenge and set sail the very next day. When he arrived, the contest began. Hours passed, then days. Nearly a week later, the Viking's eyes remained wide open, unblinking. At last, the exhausted girl admitted defeat, forfeiting the match. Her baffled mother turned to her husband. How in the world did he keep his eyes open for so long, even against someone with no eyelids? Her husband sighed and shook his head. I don't know, dear, but you can lead a Norse to daughter, and you still can't make him blink.
An old man was walking through the desert with his donkey when he arrived at a village. The villagers welcomed him warmly, offering him food, shelter, and care for his donkey. During dinner, they served him camel milk. Surprised, he asked why they drank something so bitter. "We have no choice," said the village chief. "We've been cursed with an everlasting drought. Water is so scarce that we save every drop for our crops." The old man stroked his beard thoughtfully. "As it happens, I am one of the wise. I know how to bring rain. But first, you must bring me a large bucket full of water. I need some to summon more." Villagers, desperate for relief, gathered every last drop they had. By morning, they had just enough to fill a bucket and presented it to the old man. He took the water, walked into his host's house, and shut the door. Moments later, a curious child peeked through the window and gasped, running back to alert the villagers. By the time they burst in, the old man had already finished washing his clothes and was calmly hanging them to dry. "Shame! Shame on you, old man," the chief bellowed. "Our children go thirsty, and you wasted our last water on laundry?" But just as he finished speaking, the sky darkened. Clouds gathered overhead. Moments later, rain poured down, heavy and unrelenting, lasting for 5 days straight. The village's reservoirs overflowed, their crops thrived, the people celebrated, and the old man was honored as a hero. Even the chief apologized for ever doubting him. The old man prepared to leave. The curious child finally worked up the courage to ask, "But how did you do it? How did you bring the rain?" The old man smiled and shrugged. "Simple. It always rains when I hang my clothes to dry."
Millions of years ago, 3 dinosaurs were lumbering through the jungle when they stumbled upon something unusual, a strange golden object half buried in the dirt. "What in the prehistoric world is this?" one of them asked, brushing off the dust. Curious, they gave it a rub, and poof, a massive dino genie appeared, his smoky tail curling into the air. "You have awakened me," the genie bellowed. "I shall grant each of you one wish." The first dinosaur, licking his chops, didn't have to think long. "All right, I want a big, juicy piece of meat."
With a snap of the genie's fingers, boom! A colossal, mouth-watering steak appeared in front of him, still sizzling. He let out a delighted roar and dug in. The second dinosaur, not wanting to be outdone, furrowed his brow. "I know, I want a whole shower of meat." The genie nodded and snapped his fingers. Bam! Suddenly, gigantic slabs of meat began raining down from the sky, covering the ground in delicious carnivorous delight. The third dinosaur, determined to outshine the others, thought harder than both of them combined. He clenched his claws, squinted his eyes, and grinned. "I've got it," he roared. "I want a meteor shower."
A thief and a politician, who were good friends, walked into a chocolate shop. While browsing, the thief quickly swiped 3 chocolate bars and slipped them into his pocket without anyone noticing. As they left the store, he smirked and said to the politician, "See that? I'm the best thief ever. I stole 3 chocolates and no one saw a thing. Bet you can't beat that." The politician chuckled. "Oh, you think that's impressive? Watch this. I'll show you real stealing." He confidently walked back into the shop and approached the counter. "Excuse me, sir," he said to the shopkeeper. "Would you like to see a magic trick?" The shopkeeper, intrigued, replied, "Sure, why not?" The politician held out his hand. "Hand me a chocolate bar." The shopkeeper passed him one, and the politician ate it. "Give me another." The shopkeeper hesitated, but handed over a second bar. The politician ate that one too. "One more, please." Now looking suspicious, the shopkeeper handed him a third chocolate. The politician ate that one as well. The shopkeeper frowned. "All right, but where's the magic?" The politician grinned and pointed to his friend's pocket. "Check my friend's pocket." A doctor at an insane asylum decided to take his patients to a baseball game. For weeks beforehand, he carefully coached him on how to follow his commands. Finally, game day arrived, and everything went smoothly. When the national anthem began, the doctor shouted, "Up, nuts!" and all the patients stood up in unison. When it ended, he yelled, "Down, nuts!" and they all sat back down. After a home run, he called, "Cheer, nuts!" and they erupted in applause. When the umpire made a terrible call, he instructed, "Boo, nuts!" and they all booed passionately. Feeling confident, the doctor left his assistant in charge and went to grab a hot dog and a beer. But when he returned, chaos had erupted. Fans were fleeing, security was struggling, and his patients were causing a full-blown riot. He frantically found his assistant. "What the hell happened?" The assistant, wide-eyed and panicked, stammered, "I don't know. Everything was fine until some guy walked by and yelled, 'Peanuts!'" A father puts his 3-year-old daughter to bed. His daughter wanted to say a prayer before sleeping, so the father listened. "God bless Mommy, God bless Daddy, God bless Grandma, goodbye, Grandpa." The father asked, "Why did you say goodbye, Grandpa?" The little girl said, "I don't know, it just seemed like the right thing to say." The next morning, the family received news that the grandfather had indeed died. The father thought that it was just a very lucky coincidence. A few months later, he tucked her daughter into bed, and she said a prayer. "God bless Mommy, and goodbye, Daddy." And of course, the next day, the grandmother died. The father realized that his daughter could predict the family deaths and that this was no coincidence. A few weeks later, he tucked his daughter into bed, and her prayer went, "God bless Mommy, and goodbye, Daddy." Her father went into shock. He stood up all night, waiting for the worst.
And then sunrise came. He decided to just stay at work the entire day to be safe. He stayed at his office until midnight came. When it did, nothing happened. He breathed a sigh of relief. When he came home, his wife asked why he was home so late. "I have the worst day of my life," said the father. "If you think your day was hard, you won't believe what happened to me. My boss died in the middle of a meeting."
A young doctor had moved to a small town to replace a doctor who was retiring. The older doctor suggested that the young one accompany him on his rounds so that the community would become used to their new doctor. At the first house, a woman complains, "I've been a little sick to my stomach." The older doctor says, "Well, you've probably been overdoing the fresh fruit. Why not cut back on the amount you've been eating and see if that does the trick?" As they left, the younger man said, "You didn't even examine that woman. How did you come to your diagnosis so quickly?" "I didn't have to examine her. You noticed I dropped my stethoscope on the floor in there? Well, when I bent over to pick it up, I noticed a half-dozen banana peels in the waste bin. I knew that was what probably was making her sick." The younger doctor said, "Pretty clever. If you don't mind, I think I'll try that at the next house." Arriving at the next house, they spent several minutes talking with a younger woman. She just didn't have the energy she once had and said, "I'm feeling terribly run down lately." "You've probably been doing too much for the church," the younger doctor told her. "Perhaps you should cut back a bit and see if that helps." As they laughed, the elder doctor said, "I know that woman well. Your diagnosis is almost certainly correct. She's very active in the church, but how did you arrive at it?" "I did what you did at the last house. I dropped my stethoscope, and when I bent down to retrieve it, I noticed the vicar under the bed."
So a guy goes to his doctor and drops his pants, exposing his bright orange penis. The doctor says, "Oh my God, I've never seen or heard of such a thing. Come back next week while I do some research." The doctor scours all his medical books and journals, consults with colleagues, and does internet searches, all to no avail. The next week, the doctor asks the patient to detail his daily routine to see if a clue might arise. Well, the patient says, "I pretty much just go to work, come straight home, cook and eat supper, and for the rest of the night, watch some porn on my DVD player while eating a bag of Cheetos."
One lazy afternoon, a blonde redneck was wandering through the woods when his foot hit something hard. Looking down, he saw an old dusty lamp sticking out of the dirt. "Well, I'll be darned," he muttered, picking it up and brushing off the grime. Curious, he gave it a good rub, and poof, a massive cloud of smoke erupted, swirling and forming into the shape of a genie. The genie stretched his arms, cracked his neck, and looked down at the man. "You have freed me. I shall grant you 3 wishes." The redneck scratched his head and thought for a moment. Then his face lit up. "All right, for my first wish, I want a bottomless mug of beer." Snap! A cold, frosty mug appeared in his hand, golden liquid sloshing inside. He lifted it to his lips and took a big gulp. Delicious. He took another sip, and to his amazement, the beer refilled itself instantly. His eyes went wide. "Holy smokes, this is the best thing ever!" He took another gulp, and another. No matter how much he drank, the mug remained full. The genie, arms crossed, tapped in his foot. "And what about your other 2 wishes?" The redneck paused mid-sip, blinking as if the genie had spoken a foreign language. He looked at the mug, then back at the genie. A slow grin spread across his face.
I'll take 2 more just like this one.